Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Behavior. I am Zoe, back with Hannah IRL.
Hello.
It's been, I was saying this because Hannah and I went to the F1 movie together last night, and I was saying it's been so long since we last recorded.
I know, I missed
a pod.
I mean,
in
and you,
person. Thanks.
Obviously, I missed you, but
She was the set so much more. But we talked. I mean, we did do the podcast together last week, so it wasn't like we haven't seen each other. At least virtually.
Booked and busy.
But welcome back.
Thank you.
Back with a race, which is always great. Mm-hmm. And lots to discuss, lots to talk about. As I mentioned, we saw the F1 movie.
We did.
I'll kind of discuss more thoughts, feelings later in the episode. If people want, so obviously we have the Austria, so this is obviously the Austria GP recap. Then next week we have the Silverstone recap, so we can't really do a recap. If people want us to do like a full movie recap, we could do it the week after Silverstone. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I'm like, is it too late? Too over. Do you guys even care?
But maybe more people will have seen it by then. And
so anyway, let us know in the comments or DM us if you would like an episode like that, or if you're just like, I've seen enough.
There's plenty. I don't know that we have much newness to add.
Yeah, I mean, we could just share our thoughts, but if you guys don't care, we don't need to. Yeah, I'm fine either way. Yeah. So
ditto.
Majority rules, and I guess I don't know, or we could put out like a poll on Instagram or something if people would want that. Let us know. But we did see it, and I'm going to save my thoughts for the end. Okay, let's just get to some of the news things that have popped up in the leading up to this race weekend. So the first is Valtteri, the rumors that Valtteri is going to Cadillac.
Yeah.
And him
the self-started rumors.
Yeah. Him playing into those rumors with the video of him getting into the Cadillac.
It's kind of like Fernando and Taylor Swift a little. Not totally, but a little.
Oh, well, I think this has a lot more
weight to it.
You know, it's
totally.
Yeah. But what do you think about it?
I am very excited. I mean, I miss Valtteri. I think he's great. I would love to have him back in a seat. I'm kind of surprised.
I'm surprised because the rumor right now is that it's Valtteri and Checo.
Yeah, which
is great, and they're both deserving of a second chance. But also, I'm surprised if that is the case, and it is those two. I'm surprised they're not putting somebody younger, one person younger in the seat.
Yeah, but for me, it's kind of like, I don't know if there's anyone on the grid that's available that they would want that's younger. And I don't know if, like, because they're so new and because of like financial situation, maybe they want to just like have people with experience and keep it on like a shorter contract just as they're getting their feet wet a little. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But there's no talks from anyone from the IndyCar side coming in at all or anything like that?
I haven't heard anything substantial or anything that has any, weight. Part of me, and I feel like the ship has sailed, but I'm kind of like, why isn't Alex Palou getting a look in Formula 1?
I don't think he wants to.
Well, I've seen that he has, because you remember the whole McLaren thing a couple years ago when he was like, going to go to McLaren, and part of that reason that he wanted to go to McLaren was because Zach Brown had said, there's a potential chance you could get into Formula 1. So I think he does. I think he has wanted to get into Formula 1, but I think he has felt like the ship has sailed for him. Like, if it hasn't come around now, then it's not going to come around.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, this guy is just inevitable, it seems, in IndyCar and just keeps winning championships. And it's interesting to me that nobody has thought, hey, maybe we should see how this guy. I mean,
I guess that's what makes me wonder, like, if he just isn't interested anymore. Like, maybe. With all that whole thing put like a bad taste in his mouth or something.
Perhaps.
Who knows?
Perhaps. But to me, that's interesting. Colton Hurd. I feel like Colton Hurd has kind of fallen out of favor. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's really done himself very many favors in IndyCar to like make himself seem like, oh, this is a guy that we want to have in Formula 1. Yeah. Those are the days. I did see and again, rumor that Cadillac still wanted Daniel.
Yeah, I saw that too. But Daniel's done with
Daniel's
Formula 1,
done, and
except
also
for as a sponsor.
What?
I said except for like
Enchante.
Yeah. Sponsor.
And also it's just he would never want to go back to. He would never want to have this whole restart of a brand new situation and have to start from the ground up.
I think you're just going. I mean, the reality is like they could come out swinging, but like it's a brand new team. Like
it's just done. So anyway, something to keep an eye out, looking for the rest of the year. And
I wonder if they're going to announce it.
I know. I'm
soon.
curious.
I'm kind of surprised they haven't.
I'm thinking maybe they're waiting for other potential movements with other drivers, or who knows what. There's also been some, well, actually George kind of confirmed that Max and Mercedes have been talking. And he said it in a way that was like, you know, this is a normal thing that happens.
Yeah.
People talk, whatever.
I guess it's also nice that like George is aware.
Yes, he's aware. It's very interesting because on one hand, I would absolutely love to see Max at Mercedes just for the shakeup of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very curious to see how Red Bull handles that. You know, Toto working with Max, I think could be very interesting. Obviously, who do you sacrifice? Is it George? I can't imagine they would sacrifice Kimi. It just seems it would be so stupid because he's so young and so much potential, but also it seems so crazy to give up on George.
Totally.
So who knows if anything will come of that.
And it might just come down to like just the paperwork of it all. Of like, isn't George's contract up?
It is up.
So it's like, that's just easier business.
Yeah.
Than having to like buy out Kimi's contract and find him, you know, all that.
Right. So
curious.
Very curious. Again, I think if there is to be movement, I'm sure more rumors will pop up in the next month or so.
Yeah.
Before the summer break. Carlos Sainz Sr. has also pulled out of the FIA presidency running.
Disappointing.
I don't know if this clears a path for Susie Wolff.
That's fair.
I don't even know if Susie Wolff wants to be FIA president now that she has, you know, she's so involved. Obviously, she's running F1 Academy, and what would happen if she then had to, you know, remove herself from that? I'm sure there's other people that could do it, but I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I get it too.
I get it. But that's no longer happening. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with the FIA presidency of it all.
Carlos is gutted.
Carlos Jr. Yeah.
And probably Dos. I don't know.
All the Carloses are so devastated. Anything else pre-race weekend before we jump into the weekend you wanted to discuss?
I don't think so.
All right. I figured we could just jump right into qualifying because there wasn't anything super notable from any of the practices.
Mm-hmm.
So Q1, we have out Nico in P20, which was we'll get to him, but that was a bit shocking. Carlos, Yuki, Esteban, Lance. Now, obviously, we have to focus on Yuki and Carlos,
Of course.
Bias
podcast.
Well, also
I know it's also
that's the notable names out in Q1. The ones that not that I don't know if any of them should be there. No, I know, but I'm just saying like those two should not be out in Q1, especially Yuki. We can start with Yuki. You know, it's interesting because in Austria the lap is so short, so the time difference between drivers is very, very small.
Yeah,
and so he was only a couple tenths down from Max, and I think he had a good first run, but he just the second run was not good, and I just
because he was just saying he had issues with front grip, I think.
Yes, and it's just
so annoying.
The poisoned chalice of the Red Bull second seat. It's like.
It's awful.
It's really not good.
Well, and it doesn't help on a weekend too where like the V-carb is just like zooming.
Right. And it was interesting. This is kind of skipping ahead, but during the race today, did you hear them talking about, or I think it was Ted was saying this is not a Yuki Tsunoda problem.
Yeah, it's a Red Bull.
I agree to an extent, but I also think there is some I do agree that the Red Bull second seat has not been good. It hasn't been good in terms of the car itself, like the drive. You know, it's been a struggle since Gasly.
Right.
But I also do think that there is some. I think the issue is that we haven't seen a quote unquote top driver in that second seat to really compare and contrast. Like it has been either like Pierre and Alex, who were young rookies coming in, Checo, who did well initially and then kind of lost his confidence and sort of fell off, and then Liam, brand new driver, and Yuki, new-ish and like rated fairly high. I think people think he's an underrated driver to some degree, but has never been seen as like top or like has potential to win World Drivers' Championship. Like, so how would a Carlos Sainz fare in that seat? Right. How would a Oscar Piastri? How would a George Russell? Like that is, I think, the real question mark is we just don't have a barometer. Yeah. All we have is Max.
Right.
But it's really rough. And especially a weekend like this where Max gets out, as we'll get to, you can't have your Red Bull finishing last.
Yeah.
But certainly it's got to be up there fighting for good, decent points. And this is the problem. Actually, did you see Checo say, he came out and said that he's heard from Red Bull, people within Red Bull, that they regret how things went down?
No, but I'm not surprised.
No, yeah, I'm not surprised either.
Because again, it's like, I don't know how many times this has to happen for you to realize that it maybe it isn't the driver, or that's only a portion of the problem.
Or also with the Red Bull thing, it's like you can't. We said this so many times. Like what they pass on a Carlos Sainz. They didn't want Carlos Sainz. And so that's what happened. Like you have to pick your lane. Either you're going to get this kind of situation if you have a difficult car to drive and you don't want to get a driver who could compete with Max. This is the reality.
Right.
Obviously it doesn't help Yuki's case to stick around next year. But also if you're Isaac, I don't know. I don't think Liam's going to get another chance in the Red Bull. I just don't see that happening. But if you're Isaac, it's like, why would you ever want to get in that seat?
And it's also like, how do you say no? Can you say no?
Exactly.
Right. But it's like, well, it's not, this is so dramatic, but it feels like career suicide a little bit being in that seat in a lot of ways.
And I would feel the same way too. In a sense, if you're that driver who has a chance, in the back of your head, you feel like, I could be the difference. I could be the one that makes it work.
I can change him.
And right. And I think you kind of have to have that mentality. Yeah. If you don't, then why are you even an F1 driver?
Totally.
You know? So it's it's so tricky, and I really need, it's also been weird too, because there was that stretch of time when Yuki got in the car where he was solid. Yeah. He was getting into Q3. He was picking up a handful of points. Like it wasn't outstanding, but it was what he needed to do. And then it just feels like recently.
Well, I know, I just keep thinking, I always now think back to that Alex Albon interview where he's just like, as you move forward through the season, everything just gets a little bit tighter and tighter and tighter to max specifications. And so as that starts to happen, you lose your way. And it is, that's always the trajectory. It's like second seat is usually not next to necessarily max, but like doing fine. And then it's just like, in the back.
Yep. Right around this time, right around when you get to Europe is when, that's when Checo would always have his problems. And now it seems like, say with Yuki, and I'm just
like, can someone call a board meeting? I just like don't understand.
Someone get, it's tough. Yeah. And this has been going on since 2018.
Yeah, bring Seb back.
2019. Yeah. Yes. And then obviously Carlos, he's had a tough go of it too recently.
Yeah, I really feel for him.
Getting out in Q1. I think it's been 2 races in a row he's gotten out in Q1, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting for Carlos this season. He's had some good performances, but he's also had some not so good ones too.
Correct, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think it's not as obviously dire for Carlos as it is for Yuki, but it's not what you want.
No,
not what you want. Okay, then we get to Q2. This is not I don't have the order of them. Do you have the order?
How they got out?
How they got out.
So from 11th to 15th or 15th to
whichever.
11th? Okay, so Alonso, Albon, Isaac, Franco, and Ollie.
Ollie was 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So Isaac, he gets out in Q2. He gets out qualified by Liam. We can get to Liam. And, I don't know. I felt like that was kind of not a super shocking elimination. Gabi gets into Q3.
Very exciting.
Very exciting for him. We'll get to him more, but he had a great race weekend.
With the stake vehicle.
And he did fantastic. Liam as well, getting into Q3. Fantastic. And then in Q3, we had the Pierre Gasly little spin, which ruined everyone else's lap.
Yeah.
Or at least ruined Oscar and others. I can't. Max, yep.
Which I don't little toe.
Yeah. I don't think it really mattered. Honestly, like Lando was going to get pole. He was comfortably ahead in pretty much every qualifying session. Because people kept bringing up the gap, like largest pole margin, like half a second. And that is fact. But also I do think that spin did affect. I think Oscar probably would have been closer. Potentially Max would have been. But I don't think either of them were going to be out Lando for pole. He was comfortably ahead and deserved it, and it was a great pole position lap from him.
Yep.
Charles Leclerc P2, take the wins where we can get them.
Amen.
At least for myself. As I said, Liam outqualifies Max.
Yeah.
P6, highest qualifying Red Bull, which was very impressive, and he really needed this.
Yes, he did.
Liam, because he's has had a rough go of it, and then even when he got into the V carb, Isaac has been. He's been outperforming him pretty consistently, and I just think he needed a win.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's fun, like about just I guess racing in general. It's like you just never know what track is gonna work for you and be
exactly. And
it's nice.
Also, I think people or my dad was actually asking me, why is Lando doing so? Why does he seem so much further ahead than everybody else? And I believe this is where Lando got his very first podium.
Oh, okay.
And there's just some tracks that drivers just feel really comfortable at. It just feels good. They're just kind of in their flow. And then there's some tracks where it's just like, and it's also too all about how you've done in the past. If you know that you've succeeded here and you've done well, you just go in with that good energy, that confidence. And if you haven't done well, you might be a little tighter. You might be a little more trepidatious. So anyway, so that was, anything else from Q3 qualifying in general you wanted to touch on?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Let's get to the race. So I laughed out loud because if anyone's seen the F1 movie.
That's literally my first note.
And it was funny. So I obviously get down to watch the race, and in the morning watching with my mom and dad, and I was saying to my dad, I was like, I wonder if people are going to be tuning in to this race weekend if they watch the F1 movie this week. Like, are they going to come in, tune in, watch this race? Maybe it's their first time watching and they're expecting
chaos.
Super, and then and this is a spoiler warning. It's not a big spoiler, but if you haven't seen the movie, but in Sonny Hayes, Brad Pitt's character's first race in the car, he stalls on the formation lap. But it was all on purpose to warm up his tires for the start. And then Carlos Sainz stalls in that formation
and
lap.
I wrote, it's giving Sonny Hayes.
It's giving Sonny Hayes. And I saw a lot of people tweeting about that, which was funny.
Yeah.
Didn't really end up working in
No.
Carlos's
It definitely
favor.
was not a strategy
and
thing.
I was pissed because I was like, aborted start, like 10 more minutes we have to wait. Like, come on, Carlos. And then his car is on fire.
Yeah.
And then it was a tough. It's a weekend to forget for Carlos Sainz
and James Vowles.
We'll get to that. But just not great at all. Then we have the start. We have Oscar.
First before that. When they're still, everyone's still back, like working on the cars and stuff. And George is like, make sure everyone has water. It's like.
Okay, that's funny because
thank you, George.
My dad, we brought that up when that happened, my dad was like, is George just saying that? And my dad's a big George fan.
Yeah.
But he was like, is George just saying that because he knows everyone's going to hear it and be like, oh, what a nice
George.
guy.
But see, I am just like, how pick me of you.
Yes.
And like, again, love,
Yeah. And it could be genuinely from a good,
I know.
He could really mean it.
But duh.
Yeah. But it's the whole thing, like, if it fits into the kind of way that George, like,
it's just his personality.
It's just his personality to be that way.
Yeah.
And also Fernando being like, the seat, whatever he said about the seat.
I meant to take a picture of it because it was really funny. He was like, you have no idea. It's 200 degrees.
200 degrees. Classic.
And no one responded to him, or at least that we heard.
Yeah. So then we have the start. We have Oscar getting by Charles Leclerc, so gets into P2, and then the Kimi and Max.
Yeah.
Incident. Kimi locks up, runs into Max. Tough go for Kimi. Really,
Max seemed very I know he was like idiots on the radio or whatever, but he seemed very.
I think he just understood. I think when I saw a quote that he shared after, or he said in the media, basically like, no one does this on purpose.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say it would have been funny if he was like, or like, no one does this on purpose except for George. Or like, give some little remark. But I think most drivers tend to forgive a first lap, especially first turn incident, just because there is so much chaos and nobody is intentionally trying to cause problems. Sure. I think where Max gets the most irritated is when it's like lap 32 and you're battling somebody
and, like, what are you doing?
They're making silly moves. Or
did you see the picture of Kimi and Max that's circling? Kimi's like 6 years older.
I
mean, he might be older than that, but maybe 8 or something. Okay. And it's just, I don't know. It's just funny how this sport works.
Yeah, it's great. Like the picture of George trying to get Lewis's autograph, and looking like a little
hilarious.
Yeah,
and also it just made me think like if Max and Kimi become teammates.
I know
next year it's just weird.
I know
the whole thing just.
And I think Max also, and I think this is how most drivers are. You have your drivers who you I think they all respect each other.
Sure.
But there's the certain drivers that, you know, you're a little more irritated. Like, for
yeah,
example,
if that was him and George.
I think about like when Daniel and Lance had that moment, and like it was just like Daniel just was pushed over the edge.
Yeah.
I think because he felt like this guy, like this individual is not, you know, taking accountability.
Yeah,
whereas other drivers are more, you know, so I think Max really respects Kimi, likes Kimi, and that probably played it into it too.
Agreed.
Then we had a great battle between Oscar and Lando.
Yeah, it was stressing me out.
It was a little intense. There was a moment there where Oscar seemed to have gotten, you know, Lando, but Lando got him right back. Great defense by Lando. I was never, I mean, I obviously, again, as an Oscar fan, I wanted Oscar to get the lead, but I just felt the whole weekend that Lando was faster.
Yeah.
And was just more, he just had it.
Yeah.
And I always kind of felt like, even if Oscar does seem to, or if he was able to get past Lando, I still felt like, I think Lando would somehow get him back, or I just never felt like it was super in jeopardy for Lando to lose the lead. Alex, DNFs. Tough. That Mercedes power unit has not been doing. It's been.
Did they bring upgrades this weekend too?
I don't know. I know Ferrari did.
But if Williams did,
I don't know.
They did not upgrade anything.
Yeah, tough go of it.
Well, it was funny that when they cut to James first of all, you could see Carlos Dos in the back of the garage just staring into the abyss. And then they cut to James and he's just, you know, head down.
And he had his coffee
I can't wait to see his recap video.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be full of insight.
His Instagram press conference.
Yes.
He's such a delight.
He is. So hopefully, you know, Silverstone next weekend. Hopefully it's a better weekend for Williams as a whole and get back on track. Because, you know, we don't want to see this again. Charles Leclerc and Brian.
I took a picture of it.
Okay, please share.
We need Lyco, all corners, Charles, every lap. That's what I'm doing, Brian. That is what I am doing. So, cuts off.
That is what I'm doing, Brian. I don't know.
I love that his name's Brian. I don't think I ever knew that.
Oh, he said it before.
I know, but
I don't know that we ever hear any other driver call their race engineer by their name.
That's so true.
It doesn't happen much, but Charles Leclerc is always throwing out Brian in every race.
Like,
thank you, Brian.
I mean, it's like The Office or something.
Yes.
Like, it really is just like,
looking
okay, Brian.
Looking into camera.
Yeah, like, I hear you.
Yeah, he is just
at
his
an
wit's
extra
end.
level of frustration when you use their government name.
Yep. He was not thrilled about that.
No.
And I just knew, like, I knew the second that it was, you know, Charles Leclerc radio, we're going to get something
from Brian.
A little sassy. A lot of battles, you know, in the midfield, back and forth. Franco was a little bit chaotic, and Yuki was giving the chaos. I mean, Yuki was causing he had that thing with Lance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any penalties there, racing incident. But then the Yuki Franco moment, I'm just like, what is going on? Like, Yuki just had a bad race weekend. It was just not good for him, and 10-second penalty. And we didn't get any of his radios too. I was like prepared to hear some stuff come out of his mouth, but we did not get that. And then, and I'm kind of jumping around a bit, but Franco almost taking out Oscar.
Insanity.
I was like, what? I was gonna lose my mind.
I know.
If he, like, I don't know if he didn't know he was there.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on, but
didn't he? Was that the one where he said he's like, I didn't see him?
Maybe.
Or it might have been him and
Yuki.
Maybe, but that was anyway. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I was just like,
I was stressed. I was like, please. And he had to fully go on the grass to avoid that. I was also waiting for Oscar's rate. Like, I wanted to hear what Oscar had to say, because it would have been something kind of quick and like, okay.
He needs to move.
Just that was a little too close for comfort. You know, Franco, I took a screenshot because we've reached our 5 races with Franco.
Yeah.
And so this is the he's done P16, P13, P15, P13, P15 in his 5 races. Now, 2 of those races he has finished higher than Pierre.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't been like the Alpine has been fantastic,
right?
But you know, is this better than what Jack Doohan would have done?
No.
I don't think so. Again, not Franco's fault.
Yeah.
Because he is also a new driver.
Yeah.
But it just goes back to the
Grass
original
is always
question,
greener.
which yes, and you know, you've got to give these people more time to show you something. And
So do you think they'll make the change again, or do you think
No.
Frank is in for the season?
I think he's in for the season.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't disagree.
yeah, there's just I think
There's
that
also been no chatter that
there's
would
been no
change.
chatter. Franco's got the money, you know, other things, reasons to keep him around, but it's not like he's been lighting it up necessarily. So hopefully, because he did so well last year, or he had moments where he was really impressive last season, and I don't know. I hope we can get back to him like having more of those moments, because we like.
Well, it's also
Franco.
so interesting. Like, I don't know. I feel like the expectation is different than when he was first in the car.
Yes.
You know what I
totally.
mean? Which
Totally.
I think also,
That's-
as with everything else, like that's what half the battle is.
I think that's part of it, which is he did so well initially that then the expectation goes up, and they think, okay, he's, you know, got something, but so then when you don't live up to that expectation, it sort of feels like a letdown.
Yeah.
The Alonso Gabi battle.
Yep.
Manager, on employee, I suppose. That was great. Alonso also fighting with Liam.
Always cheeky when that happens.
Always cheeky. Alonso did end up getting Gabi, I believe, right? I think Alonso finished P7.
Yes.
But Gabi P8.
Yes.
Nico P9.
I know.
Nico from P20 to P9.
Which
Very
is impressive. There were 14 Fs. Well, I guess it was only
4.
one. No, but I'm just saying that would have like really actually benefited him was only one.
Well, Max and Kimi would have benefited him. They finished ahead. They all would have benefited him.
Yeah.
Because they all started in front of him.
Yep.
Gabi is the first Brazilian to score points since Felipe Massa.
Oh wow.
So good job to Gabi. And you know, the state car, it's not great every weekend, but it does have it's a lot more competitive this year than it was in previous years, which I think is great. And it's always nice to see rookies doing well and succeeding, and good race from him. Liam P6, fantastic result from him.
Yep, very happy
really
for him.
strong. He did the one stop, which not many people, I think maybe one other person did. I don't know.
It's impressive.
So very impressive from him. You know, kind of a weird race from George. He was just kind of a no man's land. And didn't hear much from him.
Yeah, just making sure everyone's hydrated.
Lewis, you know.
Well, at one point at the beginning too, they were
battling.
That was making me nervous.
Yep. There was some, you know, I don't want to say it was drama, but something between Lewis and his engineer. They were, you know, kind of arguing about pitting.
That actually was so annoying because, like, to me, and again, look, I don't know how to manage Lewis Hamilton, right? I could never pretend to. I don't know him well. I don't know him enough to like know his personality and how he needs to be spoken to.
Yeah.
To me, it's crazy. Like this will be the one part that I never understand is like, I totally respect all the data and I totally understand that. But the driver in the car with the feeling, and if we've watched the movie last night, it was very important that the driver who's in the car and can feel everything is giving you feedback. So if he's saying, please let me stay out on these tires, I think I can keep going. And they're just saying box, box, box. And he's like, how many laps do I have? Box, box, box. I would punch a wall. Now, maybe that's how he has to be managed. I don't know. But I can't imagine how frustrating that is. Of course, it was delayed because we heard that while he was in the pit.
Yes.
So at least he listened, I guess.
Well, he's not one to really defy. He
and maybe maybe on the broadcast they didn't show it. Maybe they did circle back of like,
okay,
you know, do this because we said so.
Well, and it's also, there's a big difference between trusting your driver who is a 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, been in Formula One for like almost 20 years versus, you know, I don't want to, you know, just like a driver who's newer to the sport, who doesn't know as much. Like there is a difference there. And so you should put more trust in a driver who's been around for a lot longer than you would a newer driver. And yeah, like and that's the thing. I feel like the McLaren pit wall and the engineers, they really trust their they ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
I felt
what
that was like really prevalent today too. Like
yes.
there was just a lot of like, would you be okay with this or this?
Yeah. What do you want to do? And then they say, you know, they give an answer and then that's what they do. And I don't know that there is quite as much trust there with the Ferrari engineer, pit wall, all that with their drivers. It just seems, again, there just always seems to be a little bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, well, and that would be
them.
Interesting to like. That just made me think, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there's something with the element of, okay, we're not picking number one driver at McLaren, right? So we can't necessarily decide who's getting what strategy. So you kind of do have to I don't know. I feel like that communication level is maybe easier because if Ferrari has decided that they're favoring Charles for this race or whatever, then they're just going to tell Lewis to do what he needs to do. So they whatever.
Sure.
That was the most articulate thing I've ever said, I think. So clip it. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night.
Say what to do, you know, and then
do what you say. Don't answer questions.
Say
bye.
That's that.
That was incredible.
Obviously, Lando Norris wins the race. Fantastic win from him. And we said this after the last race, like, you know, because obviously he DNF'd in Canada. It wasn't a great performance from him. And it felt like, oh, is this a momentum shift? And we talked about that too. And I really feel like, you know, obviously Oscar's still in the lead, but all it took was takes just one race, one good performance, one win to just get yourself back on track. And
his energy feels different. Like, I don't know if he's like doing meditation or
calm.
He's just like, even yesterday during like the post-quali interview, he just seemed like he's trying to take after Oscar a little bit and the like not getting too excited and just like, okay, this is great. But like he just kept saying yesterday, it's a really long season. It's like, it's literally always been a really long season, but I've never seen you this neutral.
Don't get too high. Don't get too low.
Yeah, just take it for what it is and keep
on moving. Yes, exactly. And I think that's exactly what you have to do to win a championship is just take the good with the good, the bad with the bad, and you just keep it rolling. And I mean, this will be a battle to the end. I really do think that it's going to come down to the final race.
That would be fun.
You know, final two races. Like, it's going to be a close one. And it obviously Max is the only, I think, George has kind of been lurking, but Max is really the only like real threat potentially for the championship. And obviously him DNFing early on, you know, doesn't do him any favors in the championship fight. So we just keep on, and it does feel like with Oscar and Lando, like it feels like every race, it's like one of them has the upper hand.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps switching off.
Yeah.
Silverstone will have to wait and see who has the upper hand there, but
British bias,
though, you know, Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So
fair.
You know, I think he might have some bias there too.
Fair point.
We'll have to see. Okay. Anything else and Charles Leclerc gets a podium, which is great.
Yeah. We love to see it.
Love to see it. Wish it was more, but we take what we can get at this point in time. Anything else from the race you wanted to touch on before we get to?
I don't think so. Kept me entertained, but
Pierre Gasly was also annoyed.
Yeah. Which is fine.
About everything.
Yeah.
He did not like his tires or something was wrong. And
he was like, the car's definitely broken. Look into that. I'm like, okay. They'll get right on that.
Look into that.
In the middle of something.
All right. Fan and foe. Do you want me to start or do you want to start?
You can start.
Okay. So my fan and foe is a combo, which is the F1 movie.
Yeah.
We can get into it just a little bit. But obviously, you know, hopefully people have seen it. If you haven't seen it, I think, you know, it's definitely worth seeing. There were elements of it that, I mean, it was obviously very entertaining, very fun. But there were so many moments where I was just like, what the hell is happening? And it's interesting because obviously it's a movie.
Yes.
So it has to be, it's going to be extra. It's going to be Hollywoodified, all those things. But, and I think I saw, it was a tweet from Ash. She was like, it's okay for us to have critique about how F1 is being portrayed because the movie is literally called F1.
That's such a fair point.
Like, if it was just called
Drive, you know, surviving the drive.
Yeah, and it was a Formula One movie, but it wasn't, you know, this is a F1.
F1 trademark logo is
F1
the name.
teams and F1 drivers, and like it is co-signed by Formula One.
Yeah.
And so there were certain things obviously that I was like, that was dumb. But again, it's part of just making a movie. There were certain things though that I was like, you didn't have to
do this.
We didn't have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to have Sonny Hayes have 9 races to go from a car that has not scored a point to a car that wins a race. Like, you could have made it. You could have made it so it's like this car is a midfield team. It's not very good, but like it needs to win a race. You've then like allowed yourself. Yes, you're still a bad team, but you've given yourself a little bit more like credibility to win a race. It's just
not going to happen. It's just not, well, like that, the scenario in itself in this sport is not realistic.
It's not realistic. And again, I understand it's Hollywood, it's all those things, but I do think there is some...
The story could have been like told differently. I think that's where the Hollywood of like, they have to go from the bottom to the top.
Yes,
like,
but they could still be the bottom.
I know. But that's hard to relay for someone who doesn't understand.
I know.
But I agree with you. Like, they're, especially because they had, I think that's the piece.
Timeout.
What?
No, this is just funny.
Oh.
We got Oscar Piastri's radio to win when Franco almost ran him off. This is classic. Okay. Alpine still managed to find a way to fuck me after all these years later, huh?
Why was that not aired? I mean, I know why it wasn't aired. That's stunning. He is such a kid. I love him.
Stunning.
Wow. Nicole should be proud.
That is so
That's
good.
Awesome.
That is so good.
Awesome.
Oscar, wittiest man on the
God.
F1
I'm like, how do
circuit.
you even think that quickly while you're driving around at speeds
I mean,
like
that is just...
That's incredible.
I'm posting it to our Instagram right now.
You should.
Sorry, I did not mean to cut off, but I felt like that needed to be shared.
I think what was hard too is like there's so much, I was listening to Brad on Armchair Expert, and he was talking about how like with some of the racing scenes, like Lewis would be watching it as they were doing like the post stuff, and Lewis was like, that sound is wrong, like when you're doing that, certain things like that where they were like really dialed in on a lot of the specifics from like the advisory perspective. And so then it's like, now I also don't like, Lewis may have been like, guys, this doesn't make sense, and they were like, we hear you, but also it doesn't matter. And that's fine. But I find I'm not hard to please when it comes to entertainment.
You're not.
I really loved it. Of course, there were several moments where we just looked at each other like, okay, be so for real. But at the end of the day, like, if I had not known anything about Formula One, I would have loved this movie. And I mean, I would watch it again.
Yes.
Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And honestly, like, for me, it didn't make me like, I feel like there's been a lot of frustration on social media and stuff, reaction. It didn't, I mean, the female storyline piece that can just I
want to get to that
go right away. But, because that was really annoying. But I don't know. I think there's just certain parts that's like, okay, they're egregious. Like, that's what we said last night. Like, there's just certain scenes where it's just like, be so for real. The FIA exists, and that just wouldn't fly.
Like, again, spoiler alert, but again, it was not that big of a deal. But Sonny not getting the tires he wanted, so he just sits in the pit box waiting for. It's like, this would literally never happen.
Right?
Like, standoff with the pit crew, like looking at, or pit wall, looking at them. Like, give me the tires I want.
Right.
I also personally, I didn't love. I found the Brad Pitt character like very annoying, and I found him just to be. It's just that classic like
entitled
male hero who doesn't really give a fuck, who's coming in. He's like, he knows everything, and he fixes it all, and
he's
it's just
not
like,
paying attention in meetings.
It's just like, I just found him to be kind of insufferable, if I'm being totally honest. So that I also,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I
can understand why you felt that way.
I just didn't really love him, and just the vibe of him and his character.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, but which is fine. I mean, that's how movies go, but I think that was part of it too. But it was just very classic. Like, he's the hero that, is going to come save the day.
Yeah.
And so to the female part of it, like, so for those who don't know, the chief technical officer in the movie is a woman, which is great.
Right.
Like, it's cool that they showed that. They have a female member of the pit crew. Again, great to see that. So like, you have this positive thing, like, okay, this is cool to see. But then it's like there's that, but then also there was like a very stereotypical storyline that you're kind of like, why did you have to do that? And I actually I don't know if you saw Matt and Tommy talk about this. There's a clip of them talking about it.
Did.
Like, so the chief technical officer, their bottom team trying to make their way up, and only until Brad Pitt comes in and tells her what needs to happen does like the car completely change. And again, it's like that, a driver gives feedback to their team. There's changes that need to be made, but it's a little bit like, okay. And then the whole like romance part of it. And I think my feeling is the romance inherently, or like, is not bad. Like, it's not bad for someone that works on a team to have a relationship with somebody else on the team. But I think women in Formula One in motorsport have tried very hard for a very long time to like prove that they're there for, you know, to work and to be a part of this team. And that, and we even, this is kind of a side note, but, Callum, the former Red Bull.
Yeah.
Do you remember that clip where he was talking about how like his girlfriend I'm not sure if she worked for Red Bull, but she worked for someone F1 team. And he was saying like, there's this double standard where like, if a female member of the team gets involved with someone, they get let go, but the male does not get let go. And so like he was talking about how there's just this double standard in Formula One when it comes to men and women. And so it was sort of like, did you really need to have that in the story?
Well,
like,
and like,
I understand having romance, but did it have to be that kind of
and also
situation?
like we never had to I mean, like it could have just been like tension.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I think
we didn't. Yes, you're right.
We're in this world now where it's just like honestly it would have been fine.
We didn't need it.
We didn't need it.
We didn't need it. And the female pit crew member, you know, I guess it was this like character arc for her, but like she's the one that makes the mistake.
Right.
And it's like, again, can a female pit crew member make a mistake? Of course, yes.
But she was the only one.
She was the only one. And again, it's like, all these people who, whenever they see a woman in Formula One do anything wrong, it's like, why is she in this sport?
Well, and that's my thing too. I was like, oh, I'm so glad that they put a female on the pit crew.
Yes.
And then immediately I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So that she can learn from the boys.
Yeah, and like make the mistake.
Cool.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like that was just too bad.
So yeah, it was like you had this potential to be like really cool and but then there was this other part of it that just didn't work. The Simone Ashley, you know, the Bridgerton, she was supposed to be, I mean, she was in the movie and then she got cut.
That's what I was wondering.
And I think she was playing Damson Idris's girlfriend.
Oh.
And they just cut that role completely. And I think I've seen because they wanted to have like his mom, like him and his mom storyline kind of be the focus for him rather than like the girlfriend piece, which I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, people get cut, storylines get cut from movies all the time. Again, it's just like, of course, it's the female character that gets cut.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, in fairness, you can't cut the second driver.
Yes, of course. But I was also like, that would have been a more interesting kind of like romance situation than like having Brad Pitt and, you know, again, I think there was some choices made that I didn't love. Everyone has their own opinion on it. I didn't love that part of it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's worth seeing.
I do too. I mean, I
for the entertainment value. It was very. I mean, it's a cool action movie. It's well shot.
Like, I mean, I was like, there were some of the race scenes. I was literally like sitting up the way I would like when I'm watching a race. Like I was getting stressed out and excited and whatever.
Yep.
So I mean, I definitely think they did a really great job. I thought the camera work was super cool. Yeah. There's a lot of it that was really well done, and then there's stuff that was obviously dramatized, and that's just how
it goes. Okay, sorry, your fan and foe.
Fan was Gabi, foe was Max.
Okay,
we'll just call it at that.
Okay, all right. Let's get to some of the questions. Okay, honestly, I think Yuki is going to be okay. The Red Bull car is obviously the problem. I mean, I think it's two things could be true at once.
Yeah, and also. That hasn't been like, while I totally hope and pray that that's the way it is, that has not been the storyline thus far.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm not nearly as optimistic as our friend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And someone has said, why won't Red Bull just put Daniel back in the second seat?
Because Daniel doesn't want the second seat anymore.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. They should have done it, you know, a year ago.
Sorry, that tone was not directed at you.
No,
Oscar. That was directed
the frustration towards Red Bull.
That's correct.
For sure.
With respect.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, that's
honestly,
it's for the best.
Daniel's happier.
It's for the best. Is Carlos's career over, or can Williams come back from this?
He'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think his career is over. I mean, you know, he definitely needs to rebound. He needs to come back strong, have some good performances, but he'll be fine. Okay. Do we think that every rookie would score points before summer break? I guess Franco hasn't scored points, but every other one has.
No.
Which is really cool.
I did, especially at the like with Gabi and stuff. Like I just never thought that car would.
Yeah. Same.
After what it did last year with 2 non-rookies.
Yep. Should there be harsher penalties for drivers fighting for 14th, 15th place who hold up race leaders?
No.
No, I don't think there should be harsher penalties.
I mean, they're just racing and then the car the leading car is just there. Like I think that's super hard to manage.
It's super hard to manage, and
now if they're ignoring flags, that's a totally different thing.
Well, and that's what's challenging. And they said this. I think it was the Liam Oscar or Liam Fernando battle? I think so. When Lando was coming up, and that was for points. I mean, that was for whatever P7 or something. Like, it's hard to ask Fernando and Liam to give up that fight in order to let the race leader through. Mm-hmm. But also, if you're the race leader and you have Oscar or whoever coming up behind you, you want to be let through. Like, it's that tricky thing. So maybe they could find a way to I think it's all fine. It is. Yeah,
I don't think the harsher penalties would make sense personally. But
someone said, "Is Hannah okay?" Because I'm not. I think this is about the Max.
I'm fine. I mean, it's just annoying. Like, I just think it's a bummer. I also feel for the fans because this is obviously such a significant race for Max fans. Obviously a bummer for Red Bull. Because it's obviously big weekend for them as a team, and then obviously with Yuki not doing so well. So I was bummed. But I was I literally was just like, okay, cool.
It's always hard for me, and this is just coming from my own perspective, it's always hard for me to feel bad for Max Verstappen fans because I'm like, as someone who has had, who's been in the trenches for years, I'm like, I'm sure it's sad when your driver doesn't win a race or DNFs, but also you just won 4 championships in a row. So kind of
I was just for comparison, I was a lot more bummed when Alex DNF'd in this race than I was when Max DNF'd.
I'm more of a Kimi fan, but I was more bummed for Kimi in that situation than I was for Max. Yeah. Again, I recognize that my bias leans Kimi, but it's kind of like no one feels bad for the Chiefs. When the Chiefs lose a champion, it's okay, cry me a river in your 3 Super Bowl rings you've won in the last 5 years. No one feels bad for you. Yeah. I feel bad for myself when the Chiefs lose, but I recognize no, everyone's rejoicing and no one cares, and no one should care because we've done so well. Yeah. So I get that.
Well, I'm sorry you're not doing well. We'll get through this.
Yeah, Max will always rebound. You can rest assured. He's always going to come back stronger than ever.
I did see this really funny reel the other day. This just made me think of it. And it was this dad or a parent, I'm assuming, who had their 2 kids fully race suit with the helmet at the gas station and drove away. And on the text overlay, it was just if you know anything, you know that this is a very important part of their future success. And I just really got a chuckle out of that.
I mean, yeah. Hopefully it was, hopefully they weren't scarred from it. I think Max.
I think they were in on it. Yeah. I think it was just for the bit.
Just for the bit. Yep. Will Colapinto stay put next week at Silverstone?
I'm assuming yes, but weirder things have happened.
How much more do you think Lewis will put up with this Ferrari nonsense?
Lewis isn't going anywhere.
I mean, he's got to put up with it. It's,
Yeah. This is his final. This is the final
countdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just the communication just got to be better. And I do wonder if he wishes if he could have taken Bono with him in this journey, But I'm also kind of happy for Bono that he's with Kimi. I'm happy for Kimi that he has Bono. Yeah.
Well, and I just, that too is so maybe you have if you have Bono and Lewis, but if Bono isn't vibing with everybody else too,
exactly.
It's tough.
How are you after Yuki's race? We already kind of discussed.
She had to go touch grass again.
Needs to get better. Why are Gabi and Nico stronger in stake than Valtteri and Joe? I think it's, I think Gabi is I do think he's a real talent. And I think he won F2 last year. He beat Isaac, and we all know how good Isaac is. Mm-hmm. So I think, Gabi's he's been in a car that hasn't been very good. Yeah. So it's been harder to show his ability, but I think he's a real talent. And Nico, he's proven that in the last couple years, he also still has it. Yeah. So, but
I also think the car
is much better now than not much better, but it's better than it was the last couple years. So I think that's also part of it too. All right. Well, that is that for the Austria GP. I still can't get over Oscar's
radio. That's wild. That's incredible.
So iconic.
Yeah, that's great.
Could not have asked for better from Oscar Piastri. That is why I freaking love that guy. Mm-hmm. There's no one like that. There's really no one like Oscar. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap things up for today?
I don't think so. I'm excited for Silverstone.
I know, me too. I will be, so I'm traveling this week, but I will be back. I fly back Sunday morning because, you know, I can't miss a Silverstone recap. I do this all for you guys. So,
very kind of you.
Yeah. So I'll be actually, I'll have to watch Silverstone a bit delayed because of when my flight gets back, but we'll get back, record the pod. I'll probably be quite delirious because it will be.
That's okay. We do our best work when one of us is
and
delirious.
I already pushed off all the admin work to Hannah for that episode because I just knew I wouldn't be able to handle it. So, but we'll be back for Silverstone. Can't wait. I'm hoping for another thriller of a race. I need another Through Goes Hamilton.
Yeah.
I need a good one. I would prefer a Ferrari victory in Silverstone, but beggars, and boy are we beggars, like we cannot be choosers.
Sure.
So we take what we can get. Do you have a prediction? Let's put a prediction.
I think
top 3.
Oscar, Charles, Max.
Oscar 1, Charles 2, Max 3.
That I don't even have any reason to say.
That's okay. I mean, that's just a gut reaction. I'm gonna say Oscar, Lando. I'm gonna say George.
Okay.
Oscar, Lando, George. I think George is gonna get that little extra bump from being home race vibes. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening or watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Please.
Follow us on all the things, and we'll see you next week.
Enchante.